To my immediate left, Andrew Jenkins from Universal Music Publishing in London, formerly of BMG Publishing. We've known each other for about 25 years. He's hopefully going to be entertaining today, but I've always enjoyed his company. The goddess on the panel, of course, is Clare Bowditch, who is about to release her fourth album on Universal Records. Won an ARIA for Best Female Artist, and is much respected as a writer and a performer. And she's also a mother of 3 kids, and she's just about the most complete individual I've come across in a long time. I'm sure there's something that she doesn't do well, and maybe we'll try and prize that out of her today. Next to Clare, in the '60s shirt, Brett Oaten, the consummate lawyer who I guess gave the lie that the law is all about big law firms and power plays. He's developed what started out as a boutique company into a very, very impressive law company over the years with a terrific clientele. I do remember him as the junior lawyer at Regular Records under the advice of Martin Fabini many years ago.
Yeah, the less said about that, the better. But
let's talk about that a little later, Brett. And next to him is John Watson, who I would describe as the senior manager in Australia, except for the fact that we both know Michael McMartin. So running second to Michael's not a bad idea. John is the manager of Silverchair, which in itself is a fairly complex task. Wolf Mother, Missy Higgins, and I'm sure you'll tell us a bit more about that. So firstly, I'd like to welcome the panel. It's a terrific panel, and I'm hoping to prize out of them some of the truth about the way we go about doing things rather than the platitudes.
Publishing money is the money that you make from writing songs. The reason it's called publishing is that 100 years ago, the only way you made money as a writer was to publish your sheet music. And so you go and do a publishing deal where someone would print your sheet music and travel from village to village and sell it for you. Yep. That's why they're called publishing deals. There are 4 ways that you make money as a songwriter. One is the income that you earn as a songwriter from having your songs reproduced on CDs, digital downloads, or whatever other kind of recording formats that we have. The second is the sale of sheet music, which is probably the smallest part of your income these days, unless you're maybe a classical artist, a piano-based artist, or a metal band that can sell guitar tab books. There is public performance income, which APRA collects on your behalf from having your songs published or played, performed on radio, television, streamed via the internet, whatever other way. And finally, there's synchronisation, which is the licenses where your songs get placed into film, TV, ads, video games. All of that money potentially flows to you as a songwriter, and your publisher will collect that for you, make sure it is efficiently and properly collected, and will also hopefully generate more opportunities for you to make money from those activities, and will take a share of the money for doing that.
In return for assigning the right to collect that money to the publisher will have those rights for a given territory, might just be for Australia, might be for the whole world, for a given term, which is the works that you create during that period or the period of the deal.
Or it could be a number of albums.
It could be a number of albums. It's increasingly that's not the case, but because of the decline of the album and the rise of the single. But regardless, there will be a amount of your songs or a time period of your songs that the publisher will get to control. There will be a retention, which is once that time ends, how much after that does the publisher continue to control those songs for? So the deal, your new works can go somewhere else, but your old works stick behind. Maybe the retention's 0. Sometimes the retention, old deals used to be in perpetuity. They controlled your works forever. And anything in between is possible as well. Then there is the splits of the deal. In return for the publisher going out and collecting this stuff for you, and hopefully, as Brett says, generating some more of it by getting your songs into TV ads or by getting other people to cover your songs, the publisher will get a piece of it that would have otherwise, the whole amount would have flown to you. Now the publisher's going to take some of it on the way through because they're adding some value notionally by providing this service and by generating some more of it. So they might take 20% or 10% or 30% of the different types of income that Brett's, so those are called the splits. And then there is the issue of creative control. Before you do a publishing deal, no one can do anything with your stuff unless you say it's okay. You can structure your publishing deal so that continues to be the case. The publisher has to keep coming back to you for your consent. They can't put the song into the TV ad unless you say it's okay. Some publishing deals are not structured that way, so you want to be mindful of that if creative control is important to you. Have I missed anything in that? I think that's pretty much the key. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff in a publishing deal, but those are the kind of, that's the big ticket items that you're going to want to cover off on. If we're here to talk about the art of the deal, a good starting point would be to say, well, why are we doing a publishing deal? What is it that we're actually looking for here? And there are many different reasons why you might be considering publishing. At one extreme, there is the what an American lawyer friend of mine calls stupid money, always her favourite reason for doing a publishing deal, where someone offers you an advance that is greater than you ever expect to make from the earnings from your songs, and you think to yourself, well, you know, I should probably take that check because if I ever make any more than it, I'll be surprised to the upside anyway. You know, there might be that reason. There might be artists who've toiled for a long period of time, haven't been able to get any interest, haven't been able to get a toehold in the business, need somebody to help connect them more broadly. A publisher's interested, there's no label interested, they maybe don't, you know, management's sort of not, they don't have an experienced manager or whatever, they need a publisher to bring some gravitas to the table. That might be another scenario where it makes a certain amount of sense. There could be an artist in the later stages of the career who's got a massive catalogue and they're looking for someone to control that catalogue. So there's all sorts of different reasons why you might be coming to look for a publisher. You might be a new artist who's absolutely strapped for cash, desperate, got, you know, already pawned all the guitars, already pawned the family jewellery, and the only thing you've got left to pawn is your songs, so you're going to go out and look for that cash injection at that point in your career. So there can be lots of different reasons to be doing it, but I guess my point is this. You need to be crystal clear in your own mind about why it is that you're wanting to do a publishing deal in order to then shape the right kind of deal to fit your circumstance, rather than just going, oh, well, it seems like everybody ends up with, you know, when they have their music industry directory listing, it lists a manager, a record company, a publisher, and a booking agent. Therefore, I need to tick each of those boxes. That would be a very mindless and silly way to approach entering into what we're about to be talking about.
One thing that I find sometimes is that, and this goes along with what John said, which is, I think, a bad reason to do a publishing deal, is that sometimes I think maybe if an artist or a writer's been trying to get things happening for a while and haven't gone as well as they would like, is that they are kind of seduced or perhaps even validated by the fact that somebody likes them. And they get an offer that may be objectively a bad deal to do, but they just can't say no to the first person who ever liked them. And I see
Hands
that...
up, that's the story of your life. Come on, a bit of show of hands. Because artists are essentially insecure beasts. So,
yeah,
you know.
and I'm never sure. I think you've got to kind of have a good sense of the worth of what you do, and I don't necessarily mean the financial worth of what you do. And it can be a great reason to do a publishing deal, is to have a champion and to have someone who loves you and believes in you, but of itself it may not be a good enough reason.
The thing from an artistic perspective, from a creative perspective, what you can probably hear the boys talking about is this fact that you don't have a whole lot of control over whether or not you sign publishing, or whether or not publishers are interested in you. By the only way you have control over that, the only way you can create an incentive for publishers to be interested in you, is to concentrate on writing your songs and making your music. And that can be a fairly paralysing place to be in if you're desperate to get a deal and kind of get out there. But back to the question of why would we want publishing? Well, really, publishing is, for an artist such as myself, it was one of those things that I knew. I was a long-term songwriter. I was always going to write songs. It was going to be another stream of income for me. It was also going to offer a community, which is not something that we often associate with big business. But for me, being part of a publishing community meant going to songwriting, you know, basically going to school camp with other songwriters, having someone's table to sit at the APRA Awards. That was a minor consideration because, like, I don't need other people. But so why would you do it? For me, it was also about saving that little, you know, some people think of it as a nest egg. So for me, as someone, I knew I was always going to write songs. I had some faith in my ability to write a song eventually, even though I was also tempted to sign the first deal that I had, because I did have that feeling of, shit, what if no one else ever sees me for what I've done? What if no one else ever recognises that I can write a song? And what if this is the only chance I ever get? So, you know, it's a kind of first world concern, but, you know, it was that thing of, do I sign now or can I hold off? So for me, publishing essentially was about, at a stage in my career where I was a mainly independent artist, I wanted to record another album. We were doing it in the back shed, we didn't need a whole lot of money, but we also wanted to think about our future. We had a child and probably more coming and so on. So it was something for me personally that I saved till a little later, you know, a few years into my career. If, however, I had have been someone who was a songwriter first and foremost, and I didn't need that upfront, you know, kind of little nest egg, and I just wanted to establish ties and relationships with people who could put my songs, for example, potentially on Britney Spears' desk, or you know, whisper into Christina Aguilera's ear, or say, Gaga, I found this incredible Melbourne song, you know, that kind of thing. Or even, I write a good jingle and can you try and pop this in the Tourism Australia ad or whatever. If that was the kind of person my considerations would be different as to why I would sign publishing and when. But I just want to be clear, because it can be quite confusing, what is publishing and it's a form of revenue. So it's basically one of the things you might do as a musician that might give you a little bit of money up front or a lot of money up front, and then a trickle of money throughout the years when your music is exercised. So when your music is put on Home and Away and you get that, you know, $500 or whatever it is, it's just little, it's all part of creating the income.
I think we shouldn't shy away from the point that many writers do publishing deals because it's their first opportunity to get some upfront money.
Absolutely, and who could blame them?
I think a lot of publishers don't necessarily want to think of themselves in that way, because the part of their job that they like the most, and quite rightly, is working with the writer and looking for opportunities and trying to help them. But often the writers want to do the deal because they want to get some money, because unless you find yourself in an exceptional position, your record, the money that you would get in your record deal goes into making records rather than into your pocket. And I expect as time goes on, that is likely to be even more common than it already is. And so, you know, a lot of people do a deal because they want to put some money in their pocket and they want to, you know, feel like they've got something out of their musical career wherever it might lead them in the future.
There is a null hypothesis, as they call it, which is that we don't do a publishing deal. Mm-hmm. And that's a completely legitimate choice for many artists, and it's certainly a choice that over time, at different times, I've advised artists to take. You know, Brett's just made the point that, you know, in many cases, the attraction for some artists early on in the piece is that they're going to get this cash up front. But it's like that old game show, the money or the box. You know, are you going to make more by taking this check now and giving away a slice of your revenue stream in future, or are you going to make more by backing yourself in the long term? Yep. You don't get the check up now, but you get, you know, bird in the hand, two in the bush, right? I think now more than ever, my number one piece of advice to artists when they're starting out and managers when they're starting out is to have what the marketing people would call a customer orientation. But, you know, which means that the artist should be focusing on the fans and the audience. That the idea, you know, once upon a time, you really had to sort of be focusing, if you wanted to be a successful artist that sold lots of records, your first port of call were the gatekeepers, the record company, the manager, the publisher, the media, all of whom you needed to have on your team before you could ever get onto Countdown or get played on the radio and do the things that you used to have to do to get heard. now it's easier than it's ever been to reach 1,000 people, harder than it's ever been to reach 1 million. So I'm sure that that 1,000 True Fans article has been mentioned on this stage 10 times already over the last 24 hours. If it hasn't been, you should go online and check it out. But that idea that at the early part of your career, you should don't worry about Mount Everest that's over there, that's the world of the ARIA Awards and that's the world of top 10 records. Worry about that small local venue and how do you fill it, and your Facebook page and how do you get more friends on it, and your MySpace page, how do you get more people on it. And boy, you lower your line of vision from out there on the horizon to something a little closer to your toes. And if you do that and you make that the game you're playing, if you're doing something special, you will get reactivity from it, and it will give you confidence, and it will give you that sense of community, and it will help you feel like, okay, I'm actually onto something here because I can see it in all these different ways. I'm selling CDs at my shows, or you know, my white label when it goes into clubs is filling the dance floor, whatever your thing is. And I think that helps. Having a fan orientation, a customer orientation, is really the key point of difference to the 21st century music business to the 20th. And all of us ultimately will be more impressed by going and seeing the artist who's already filling that venue and has made that happen than they will be by just about anything else other than that incredible song that arrives.
Look, I'd like you to thank the panel. We're out of time, and I think you've had some good advice.